right, so I'm trying to set this up. So I can stream it on Facebook as well. So this will take just a minute. Country, because you can't type America in Facebook, or someone will tag you and say that it's uh, hating on someone for their nation of origin. I wrote in there last year that Americans are cowards, and I still mean that. That in quotations, of course. And what you can do about it. Go live. I'm having issues loading up. It might be because I'm so far away from the router and because I am upstairs. All right, so when I was a kid, when I was abused, my mother was a cocaine addict and my dad was a cocaine salesman. There's a lot of evidence on my YouTube that proves that. Conversations with family members, and yeah. Now the problem is that once you are tagged with mentally ill, anybody can harm you and get away with it. Anybody can do anything that they want to you at any point in time, call you mentally ill, and get away with it. The only thing that you can do about this is to have a family that actually gives a shit. Obviously, my family doesn't. But then again, my family has every reason not to help me. They victimized me, and I spoke out. Meanwhile, they got away with doing the things that they did to me by calling me mentally ill. The record shows that they are the ones who are the predators. Away. My entire life, I've been victimized and drugged, and you won't like me when I'm on drugs. We're not talking about heroin. We're not talking about methamphetamines. We're not talking about cocaine. We're not talking about crack. We're talking about pharmaceuticals. We're talking about Prozac, Ritalin, lithium. We're talking about clonidine, mepramine. We're talking about morphine derivatives. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about Haldol. And we're talking about, well, severely mind-altering drugs. What happens when you try to turn in a doctor who does bad things to you? Now, mind you, doctors weren't my physical predators. They weren't the ones who raped me. They weren't the ones who molested me. In most cases, they weren't the ones who physically abused me. In some cases, they had others physically abuse me for them. The mentally ill tag guarantees you a ticket to hell. When you have no family who actually gives a shit, well, People victimize who they think they can get away with victimizing. They look for, well, depending on the type of predator, they look for markers that allow them to get away with it. And the number one marker is, are they alone? Chances are, if they're homeless, then they're alone. It doesn't matter if you're a judge, a lawyer, a public pretender, a police officer, or a college student. If they're alone, you can get away with it. If it's your word versus theirs, it usually comes down to money, but there are other factors that are involved. There are a lot of people I know who were abused and ended up with PTSD from this abuse. And they get under the category of mentally ill. They are the ones who are victimized by the system when they tell on their abusers. In the system, we've got a lot of people who abuse their power. They're friends with many of the people in the system who abuse their power. It's a top-down system. The more corrupt it is at the top, the more people those corrupt ones at the top are going to hire that are corrupt below them because, well, if they hire somebody who's squeaky clean, they hire a Boy Scout, and that Boy Scout finds out they're doing something wrong. That Boy Scout might come after them or might blow the whistle. If you hire somebody below you who you've got some dirt on, they're a lot less likely to speak up. They're a lot more likely to stay in line and do as you want. Right from the start, everybody did everything wrong. And I told people exactly what it is that I needed. I needed a safe environment. I needed some actual help in person. With most of the people who offered to help, there was distance between us. And then there's the fact that a lot of the people who wanted to help their addicts, plain and simple. Now, I can't say anything about these addicts or I'm some sort of a terrible person because they offered to help. But at the same time, they didn't help. When you have the tag of mentally ill, there is only one thing that will help: someone caring enough to go in with you and to speak up. Laura Nelson, she finally went in with me after over 2 years of this. Well, with Laura Nelson, she was there from the beginning, over 3 years of this hell. And she should speak up, obviously, with the fact that she is one of the few people that I know that actually does watch my videos. She knows the things that I say. And if those things were untrue, she wouldn't have gone in with me. But the other thing is that she knew a lot of what was going on, and she should have gone in to begin with. Just like with all of the other people that I talk about that didn't come forward, what she did was a felony. But she's willing to commit that felony because the fear for her son is even worse. She doesn't want to lose her son. She doesn't care that the longer this drags on, the less my life is worth living. My life isn't worth living. You just call me mentally ill, and whatever you do is fine. Like with Natalie and her friends, and what they did to me for an entire year before she was killed. But it's fine because you call me mentally ill. I'm not worth listening to because of that tag. Meanwhile, when you hear the term mentally ill, you think schizophrenia. PTSD is not the same thing as schizophrenia, not by a long shot. Autism is not the same thing as schizophrenia, not by a long shot. You know, in the state of South Dakota, they classify autism in the same category that they classify dementia. Did you know that? So, because of my intelligence, that is used to say that I could have done something about all of this. I was trying the whole time. Then they call me mentally ill to pretend I'm schizophrenia and making everything up. When it comes to the police were heavily involved in covering up for the wrongdoing of who? Were they covering up the wrongdoings of the volunteers? Yes and no. Their motivation wasn't to cover up the crimes of the volunteers, it was to cover up the crimes of their fellow officers in the state of Colorado. By slandering my name the way that they did, they prevented me from being able to speak to any officer in America and having my voice heard without someone going in with me, which was already the case. They made me a target for the public. Now, let me ask you something. A lot of you guys, you tell me about your family members on the spectrum. And a lot of you, you say, oh, well, I got a uncle or brother who's a lot like you. Or my sister is very similar. Or so on and so forth. Yes, but do you speak up for them? If somebody raped or beat up your disabled family member, would you go in with them to make a police report? Because the term mentally ill, no officer is going to take an actual serious look unless someone goes in with them to verify that they're telling the truth. Miss Peaches could have done that on day one. But she never did. She never went in with me despite all of her promises. Same thing with Mandy Hughes. Every single time that it came down to actually going in with me, they had some excuse. And yeah, maybe for legitimate reasons that they couldn't go in. Maybe Mandy Hughes legitimately had warrants out for her arrest. But the thing is that these things needed to come out in court. And because of the tag mentally ill, I don't fucking matter. I'm not a human being to your society. You won't allow me to be a part of your society. You aren't going to pay me the same amount of money for doing the same work. I know this for a fact. I worked for Gary Jepson for 6 years. I got paid $7.50 per hour under the table. And I loved the Jepsons. I was grateful for that $7.50. I worked for Janet Roberts as soon as I got off of work there. And Gary Jepson couldn't put me to work every day. And you know what? That money that I wasn't making, that his sons were making and his grandsons were making, I chalked it up to learning. If I was going to college, I would have to pay that money to learn those things. So I looked at it like going to a trade school, and that's the way that I had to look at it. Like I was going to a trade school, and I was actually getting paid to go to the trade school. How lucky I am to go to a trade school and get paid for it. For $7.50 an hour. And I didn't get to go out every day. Now there were a lot of jobs that, like with Janet Roberts, when I worked for her, I did go to work every single day. She was able to put me to work every day. But Chris Stegeman did her books. He told me, you know what, Sean, you get paid less than anyone in there. He also, last time I talked to him, he was making fun of me. I used to take Janet Roberts' vacuum cleaners out of her garbage can out behind her house, and I would fix them up and I'd take them back to her and sell them back for $5. She realized I was real good at fixing her vacuum cleaners, so after work I used to fix them, and I didn't get paid for that time. I was just glad I had a fucking job. So let's say I get up in the morning, right? We get everything ready and get everything gassed and oiled, and we go down to Julesburg and we chop down some trees, or we go to Big Springs and chop down some trees, or we go to a house here in town and we rake their yard, take out the power rake and blow it down too, take out the leaf blower. Then I'd get off work and I'd go work with Janet Roberts. And I'd clean Cabela's. And then after work, any of the vacuum cleaners that had it got stuffed in her trunk. We took them to her house and I'd repair them at her house. Then I'd go to bed and I'd get up and I'd go over and check Jepson, see if they needed me for the day. Always hopeful that they needed me for the day. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. And I wasn't supposed to say nothing. I'm not supposed to say nothing because he's paying me under the table. And you know what? The thing is that he kept me alive. He kept me able to feed myself. And Janet Roberts kept me in the ability to make sure my little brother and my little sister were fed because my mom was snorting all of her money up her nose. Now, most of these people, when they do fucked up shit, their family's behind them. They have to, their family. Or a lot of these people, they're living with people who did fucked up shit to me. And they have to take that person's side or they end up homeless. And they know what homeless is about. A lot of these people who don't know what homeless is about are still afraid of becoming homeless. There's a reason for that. It's because they know what all of these opinions that you, the American public, have about the homeless, about how they're all junkies. Brett Roloff and his girlfriend lived in a house in Virginia. Addicts. Danica Garner in a house. Addict. Rochelle Shelley Campbell in a house. Addict. These aren't the only addicts. Shannon Alvarado in a house. Addicted to alcohol. I needed someone to go in with me. And when nobody went in with me, despite all of their promises, the police did exactly what I told you they would do if I had to go in by myself. Meanwhile, there's all these programs, just like I said when Natalie first died, and before that even, you spend $200 to get $50 in services, and that's not even counting the hours that you wasted. Is it really worth it? And all these people telling me, hey, I gave you money, I gave you money, I gave you money. Well, first of all, you didn't give me very much. And that doesn't mean that I'm not grateful for it. But the fact is that money, I had to jump through your hoops, take away from the things that I needed to do to jump through the hoops that you wanted in order to get that money. And then you have the same shitty opinions with the mentally ill bullshit in your fucking head. When Shannon Alvarado pulled fucked up shit with me because she's a fucking alcoholic. It's not like I wanted to work with Shannon Alvarado. I was stuck with whoever I could get my hands on, with all of these Facebook bans, with all of these people claiming that everything that I posted was spam. Now, I'm grateful that Facebook changed their algorithms so that it doesn't work that way anymore. But when I was made a target because I was homeless and because of the term mentally ill, the news wouldn't listen to me. The police wouldn't listen to me. The two fake news agencies that pretended like they were going to listen to me, Sword and Scale, episodes 109 and 110, they butchered the interview between me and Josh. And that was supposed to go to the police. But they never sent it to the police. They used it to destroy my life for entertainment, as if it wasn't bad enough with all of the assaults that I was enduring that nobody would listen to me about. That nobody would do a goddamn thing about. And then when I'm frustrated, I'm a bad person, right? I'm a terrible person, right? Because I'm frustrated. I must be a villain, right? Because I'm frustrated. And I'm having to go to drug dealers for help. Drug dealers, for Christ's fucking sake. I don't even do drugs. I'm having to go to alcoholics for help. I don't even drink. Meanwhile, the resources that I needed to be able to defend myself were taken away from me. And then people think that I got all of this money from these GoFundMes. No, if I'd have gotten the money from those GoFundMes, I would have been able to do something to help myself. Instead, I have to go to others for the help that I need because I can't financially do it. I can't physically do it. And these people have all of these expectations of me that I cannot fulfill. Because of my intelligence, I can be victimized as if I don't have disabilities. Because of my disabilities, I can be victimized as if I'm not intelligent. That's why the term mentally ill needs to be stricken from the books everywhere. They prey on the image that's conjured in people's heads when they say mentally ill, which is schizophrenia. Everybody who is mentally ill must be schizophrenic, and that is not the case. PTSD is not schizophrenia. ADHD is not schizophrenia. OCD is not schizophrenia. All of these people who promise to help, but then I'm cut off from getting that help. And it was people who claimed to be my friends, people who claimed to love me, who did the most harm, who went out of their way to treat me completely like shit after not trying at all to find out what was going on in my life. They wanted to fuck up my life because they didn't care to understand. And then when I'm frustrated at them, people like Brandon Edward Jepson wants to tell me, well, you haven't been a part of my life for 6 years. You didn't care about anything in my life for the last 6 years. No, I did, Brandon. I absolutely did. But at that same token, me not knowing shit about your life for the last 6 fucking years, you didn't know shit about mine and you didn't bother to ask. You didn't fucking care. Where I'm at now, I am upstairs. It's fucking snowing out. It's cold as fuck. And look, the sun is finally out. Finally. Finally. And hopefully in the next 3 to 4 hours, it'll start getting warm enough that my fingers aren't cold. That shit hurts when it's cold. My hands, while I got them down here. I'm warming up my thumbs especially because they're especially cold. There's no access to a shower here. If it is, it's fucking frozen water. The bathtub's full of stuff. That's usually how it was at Shannon's. I had to pull everything out of the bathtub in order to take a shower. It wasn't freezing cold water, thank goodness. But the thing is, none of these people bothered to understand from my point of view, from my perspective, to look at all of the fucked up shit that these things that were happening to me. I would not have had to break the law. I would not have had to break the law if the law would have done something about the abuse that I was enduring. I would not have had to break the law If those people who pretended that they were my friends would have talked to me and listened to me instead of fucking texting non-goddamn stop and going out of their way not to understand, telling me how to think and how to feel. You don't know what the fuck is going on. You are not making any attempt to communicate with me in an effective fashion. You're going out of your way to take shit wrong in fucking texting. Meanwhile, you're telling me to call all these places that I'm calling. But without somebody calling with me, all right, the help that I needed wasn't 400 people telling me to do the same goddamn thing over and over again. No matter how many times you tell me I should call the FBI without someone sitting there with me, without someone sitting there with me when I call them and explaining to them that I'm telling the fucking truth. They're not going to listen. Without an environment where I can sit down and do this shit, I can't put all of this together for them. I need some peace and fucking quiet. I need to be able to make these phone calls without being treated like I'm some sort of a piece of shit. Sammy Leon Lawrence IV, he had help that I didn't. Zed Atkinson had a shit ton of help that I didn't. But then again, he wasn't accused of doing heinous crimes that he didn't fucking commit. I still have to deal with people making false accusations and people say you should sue them. How? I don't have the fucking money. I didn't have the money to go to my fucking court dates to begin with. I literally went to every single court date. Every fucking one of them that I could have afforded to go to. Every one of them. Over 20 court dates in between when Natalie died and when I literally had to break the law because I had people lying to me nonstop. Yes, Sean, I'll go in with you. That was their lie. Yes, Sean, I will go in with you. Meanwhile, I have to try to meet with these people when I have court dates. That's when I'm able to make it to visit with them because I can't afford to see them at any other point in time. I can't afford it. And people are treating me like shit, like, oh, dude, if you're fucking so homeless, why do you have all this money for computers and shit? First of all, I need these computers. I need this stuff to collect the evidence. It's on the fucking internet. How the fuck am I supposed to collect information from the internet when I don't have access to the internet or a device that'll hook up to the internet? I'm glad. I'm glad that Laura Nelson finally went in with me to go talk to the police. But the fact is, the difference between me posting shit up on the internet and actually having help all comes down to whether or not they speak the fuck up. If Laura Nelson had actually fucking spoke up, actually made a fucking statement instead of being a coward, things would have turned out differently. I literally need the things that were taken from me that I have not had since Natalie died. I needed that money that was coming in. I needed my housing. I needed to not be stuck in an environment where I was fucking victimized, where people didn't take advantage of what little money that I had. And you guys keep telling me to do things that you're able to do. I am glad you're able to do it, but I can't. Instead of treating me like shit because I'm not able to do the things that you are, and because I don't have the help that you have. Try to fucking understand. The difference between me being victimized and me getting an honest day in court was one motherfucker who actually cared. Who actually cared. If you don't care enough to go in with me and tell the fucking truth, then you don't care. If you're going to tell me that you're going to go in with me and I invest all of this time texting back and forth with you and you're just going to take it all wrong anyway. And then when you finally do call, I have to listen to you tell me your stories. You're not helping me by making bad assumptions. You are not helping me by telling me 10,000 things about other people. You are not learning about me or my situation at all. And when you're telling me about your situation, I do care. When Shannon Alvarado was telling me about her friend Marnie who was missing, it didn't take me 2 years to write a fucking report. She was asking me for me to spread the word, and I fucking did. Did she spread the word? Did she speak up on these websites that she is a part of about the situation with Kara Johnson Miles? Did she speak up in these websites about the situation at the Longmont Hospital? Did Peaches ever go in with me to talk to the police? No, she didn't. Not even once. Not even once. She did nothing to help me. Without that one simple act, nothing else that she did mattered. My entire life has been disrupted. And all of these places that I'm at, I have to follow rules that prevent me from doing the things that I need to do. Because I have to worry about disrupting their lives. But it doesn't even occur to them how much my life has been disrupted. They're worried about things that might happen. And I have to worry about things that are happening, have been happening. Without someone caring enough to stand up for my rights, actually stand up for my rights, not just tell me, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm fucking sorry. None of it matters. None of it matters. Your sorry means nothing. Because you're sorry, all that tells me is that you are not going to make an effort at all. The difference between you saying you can't and me saying that I can't when it comes to this situation is that I didn't just say that I can't. I tried. Well, none of you actually did. The guy that I'm staying with now, he's not a bad dude. He's got his own problems that he's got to deal with. Obviously, me being here having a fucking panic attack in his fucking house Me eating his food. Me using his electricity and his water and smoking his cigarettes. Obviously, that is putting a stress on him that he doesn't fucking need. Especially since he's not working right now. If he was at work, I could do a lot of the things that I need to do because I would have the house to myself. Wouldn't be worried and having a fucking anxiety attack about disrupting his life, disrupting his sleeping schedule. I could do a lot of the things that I need to do in order to help get myself back on track, to improve my life so I can take care of myself. It's not my choice for him to be out of work right now. It's not my choice for me to be disabled. I didn't choose to be intelligent for that matter. When it comes to giving me the rights that should be afforded to a disabled person by law, that are supposed to by law, they deny those by saying I'm intelligent. When it comes to listening to my intelligence, then they say that I'm mentally ill so that my intelligence doesn't matter. They have taken away everything from me, and I would not have had to do any of these things that I did. Any of these things I did out of desperation because I didn't have the help that I needed. If the resources that I had before Natalie died hadn't been stripped away from me over Natalie's death. Yes, Ken and Leah stole my money before Natalie died. That is very true. But the fact is that I was made homeless because of Natalie's death. And all of my disability money from there on in was spent making the courts happy, jumping through hoops that I should not have had to go through, making me a target to the American public, worse than I already was because of Natalie and Alicia Bollinger's slander. While I'm being victimized because they wanted to play victim, I was actually being victimized. How many times did I threaten to kill Natalie Bollinger? None. Not even once. Not even once. All of these people telling me, you can do it yourself, you can do it yourself. Oh, Sean, you're smart. It doesn't matter how fucking smart I am. When they won't take a fucking report from me because of the term mentally ill, I literally told you from the start, I need help in person. Without these people going in with me in person, this piece of paper doesn't mean jack shit. That's from Rawlins, Wyoming. Without my little sister going in with me, this piece of paper doesn't mean jack shit. I've got stuff from Graham here too. And there are a lot of reports he should have wrote about, but he never fucking did. Now, the very few things that he did write down, I tried taking to the police. What did they say? The same thing, that video between me and the Cheyenne Police Department when they were trying to harass me at the Starbucks. They're in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And that young woman wrote that note for me because I was stuck in that parking lot overnight because I was out of gas. What did they tell me? Then we got this one right here, Shannon Alvarado. Doesn't matter what she wrote down on it. Because the police weren't going to bother calling her. They didn't. They outright refused. Here, this is from Graham Milburn. That's Tabby and Graham. And I explained to him, that's the very same Graham that is in that video here in Chapel, Nebraska, the one that Sheriff Scott DaCosta admits that his officer didn't do his fucking job. That is the very same Graham. I cannot function to do these things. In the small amount of time that I'm able to work on these things, I do the best that I can, but there is so much of it. I tell you how it makes me feel just looking at this pile right now. But I'll give you a hint. If I had something that I could stick in my mouth and make go boom, my head would go boom in front of you right this moment. Graham isn't the only one. I've got stuff here from other inmates I was locked up with. Going from being in the system as a child, being drugged, being abused sexually and physically, psychologically. Police won't do anything because I'm not the doctor. Obviously, I must be wrong. Meanwhile, you've heard from plenty of people that I know in real life on this very YouTube channel telling you, no, I'm obviously not fucking schizophrenic. But does that matter to you? Does it? No, you wanted somebody that you could harm. You wanted someone that you could take your frustrations out on. You wanted somebody whose name that you could slander who couldn't defend themselves. You wanted someone you could assault who could not defend themselves. That's what you wanted. You wanted someone that you could take your hatred out on. The fact that you didn't get what you wanted for your 16th birthday. Well, you know what? Neither did I.